Pat Perez and Tyrrell Hatton both moved into the top 20 worldwide after wins this past week, with Perez looking to accomplish what Hatton just did by winning back-to-back when Perez heads to the inaugural CJ Cup at 9 Bridges in South Korea starting tonight. We'll preview the first regulation stop in South Korea with the latest stats, odds, and picks as Prime Sports Golf, brought to you by Pro Golf Weekly on Prime Sports Network, starts now. All right, it's Wednesday, October 18th, 2017. I'm your host, Greg DePalma, and we're 5 weeks away from the end of the PGA Tour season for 2017 as we preview the CJ Cup on today's show with my co-hosts, Jeff Shane and Joel Cook. Jeff Shane is a PGATour.com contributor. You can find his first look reports each Friday prior to every event on the PGA Tour. And also joining us from ProGolfWeekly.com, weekly digital magazine covering pro golf around the globe, is our guest analyst, who's actually been hanging around long enough that he's actually a full-time analyst, lead writer from ProGolfWeekly.com, Joel Cook. Jeff, how's it going?
It's going well. How about yourself?
It's going all right. I mean, we're 0 for 2 so far, so we got to get things going here. So do you, Joel. What's going on, man? You're 0 for 2.
Yeah, I don't know. I was around late on Grayson Murray last week. Didn't see that 12 over first rounder coming, but other than that, my guys did okay. We all missed on Perez though. That was a hard one to predict.
Yeah, I mean, we brought him up. He was definitely in the mix as a player that I came close to taking for sure. He had been playing well again. We talked about that. It was just very surprising that he won as easily as he won. So that was a bit unexpected. And like one of your players who got off to a slow start, so did Paul Casey with a 77 on Thursday, which was my top pick, and then he follows it up with a 63 in the second round, and then also a 65 in the final round, but way too far behind Pat Perez, who cruised to a win, Jeff. And the thing with Pat Perez is, as I mentioned at the top, he's now a top 20 ranked player. I mean, he's reached an all-time for his game. So is there something following this? Because last year he got off to a good start. We mentioned that last week, and here he is getting off to another good start early on in the season. Didn't really play and contend enough, though, throughout the summer in any other events or any big events. So can he do that this season? That's the big question.
Well, it seems like he's on the right path. He's found what works for him. And this is a guy who, for lack of a better term, is a late bloomer and is now really kind of reaching the garden years of his career after enduring shoulder surgery that put him out for 9 months. And I suppose that could have been the best thing that happened for him. It got the shoulder fixed. It allowed him to get rid of the bad habits that had crept into his swing, probably because of the shoulder. And he's got just kind of a different attitude about it. I think the layoff may have helped him just kind of be who he is. And he's no longer chasing extra distance, although a new combination of golf club and golf ball actually did add 30 yards to his game coming back from the surgery. And I just think that he's found himself in a really good spot. I don't know if he can contend in majors and World Golf Championship events because he's not a long hitter. He has to use his short game and his scrambling to really excel. But obviously he could be a very consistent player. It's kind of surprising that the Tour Championship 3 weeks ago, maybe 4 weeks ago, was the first time he'd ever made the Tour Championship. This is a guy that's been on the PGA Tour for 15 years, never lost his card, never made the Tour Championship until this year. I think that we've got some good things going with Pat Perez, but even he'll tell you he's not going to be the guy that competes with Justin Thomas and Jordan Spieth week in and week out.
All right. Do you buy in, Joel, when we go into fantasy for 2018? Is he somebody you buy into as somebody that would or be on your team the whole season?
Well, first, real quick on Paul Casey. I guess he figured he can't blow a Sunday lead if he starts with a 77.
That is true.
That's a different strategy for him. But as for Perez, I mean, something's refocused him. He wasn't just good in a few tournaments. He was consistently good throughout all last year. I remember looking in the playoffs and looking over stats, and he kept being like, really, Pat Perez is 12th in the standings, and you look through it. He was quietly. It depends on what kind of league you're doing, I suppose. But if you need someone for the whole year, someone that's gonna keep making cuts, get up there in money. He looks like he's happy right now. He sure isn't putting much pressure on himself. I was most impressed with how well he played with the lead. He came into Sunday 4-stroke lead and birdied 2, 3, and 4, and he just looks like he's actually enjoying being out there. It's kind of as you see a star like that from someone who'd only won twice in the past 15 years. Yeah, I would. He's definitely someone maybe like a upper mid round pick in depending on the fantasy formats. I would buy him for the most part.
All right. What about Tyrrell Hatton? Do you buy Tyrrell Hatton, Jeff? Because back-to-back wins is pretty impressive. And another player, though, like Pat Perez, that got off to a good start last season, wasn't able to continue it, as we talked about it last week. And he seems to have a little bit more of a talent window, though, that Perez does. So this is somebody that the English fans are pretty excited about, I would assume.
Yeah, and he's only about 15 years younger,
That
which
helps.
obviously helps. And so his ceiling is a lot better. And I think that last year, because he kind of pushed onto the scene and crept into the top 30 in the world rankings, that allowed him to reset his schedule and play some events that he had not played before. And so even though it was a little bit of a down year, you kind of think maybe it was a transition year. He had to get used to more of a global schedule, get used to just the demands of being a top player. That includes, extra sponsor events, extra time with the media, things like that. And a lot of times, particularly young players, are still trying to adjust to that. Obviously, he's on a good run here. He seems to really like the fall because even last year, he had 2 other top 10s after winning at the Dunhill Links, including a runner-up at the season finale, European Tour season finale. So he likes this time of year. Can he carry it over into a full season? That's the next hump he's got to get over.
And Abu Bonrot and Fisher sure didn't appreciate Hatton burying that putt on 18, or else it would have been a 3-man playoff. So Abu Bonrot's a player that, we started talking about a few years ago. He hasn't taken that next step, and he's still playing in Europe. But after 3 wins in 2015 and a worldwide ranking of 38th, kind of came back down a little bit last year. And so he's off to a nice start. He's been playing a lot better over the last 5 or 6 weeks, including the runner-up. So maybe there's opportunity for him to get going again, Jeff.
Yeah, it could. And Abu Bonrot's one of these guys that is not a big guy, probably is a little bit limited in the types of courses that he can excel at. And when we talk about can somebody, contend in majors, contend in big events, let's be honest, big events mean big courses, and that works to the detriment of guys that are shorter hitters. Abu Bonrot and Pat Perez among them. Rare is the guy like a Jordan Spieth who can take average distance and make everything else so sharp that it doesn't seem to matter. But Abu Bonrot, I think, still has a lot of upside to him. You're right. He took a big tumble. He was down into about 160 in the world rankings during the summer, but has started to slowly climb his way back and has 3 top 20s in his last 3 starts to show that maybe the fall is his time of year too.
And then you have Matt Wallace, Matt Wallace, who somebody's got to tell me where to go watch I want to go cover the Alps tour. Can I cover the Alps tour? Because it sounds like a delightful tour to cover. But he had 6 wins last year, 6, and he's this year he's had 1 win on the Challenger Tour. He was he was he was really up there at the top of the leaderboard, ready to win his first European Tour event, and didn't play well on Sunday. The putting just didn't work for him. It was the course really was easy on Sunday. Matter of fact, his score of 69 was as far as for the players that were in the top 20, his was the worst. So, matter of fact, Hatton, Abubanrat, and Fisher shot 65s and 63s, and Wallace only finished a few strokes behind Hatton. So, but that's going to happen. He's going to have to deal with the pressure of being in the situation. But what do we know about Matt Wallace?
Well, his highlights were really exciting last week. He had some just amazing shots. But yeah, he's obviously did really well on that Alps tour. I need to look up a little more on that myself, but that does sound like, I'm curious how their courses vary towards other ones. I'm assuming they're, higher elevation and all that. But yeah, he's been in the mix the last 2 weeks. He's showing he can go low. And hopefully Sunday will kind of be a learning experience for him. He should have, I know he would have liked to have done better, but you see that a lot when you have these people kind of graduating to the new tours. They flash all this talent, and then they get into a spot like that, and they're not really sure how to close. But this should help him going forward. He's a good-looking young player. I was very. He had some crazy shots that he got on video last week. I'm looking forward to seeing more of him.
Yeah, he had that really crazy one on, what was it, 17, I think, or 16?
Yes, I think so.
The one that saved him, put him in with still an opportunity to win the event, but couldn't close the deal. And of course, Hatton would have made it. He pretty much would have wiped him out anyway with that putt on 18. By the way, Garcia Rom played in that event, and they're going to be also at this week's European Tour event too. Is that correct, Jeff? Both Rom and Garcia?
Yeah, they're the headliners at the Andalusia Valderrama Masters, which is a tournament in Spain that is coming back on the schedule after a 6-year hiatus. And Sergio Garcia was a big part in getting that tournament back into existence. And he's actually going to be the tournament host. The tournament's charity is his foundation, which is in the process of I think building a school or something in Spain. But the interesting thing to me is that Jon Rahm has been a professional for 17 months now, since leaving Arizona State. This is the first time that he will tee it up in his homeland since turning professional. It took him that long to get to get back to Spain to do it.
All right. Now this week, the boys are at the Nine Bridges course, the CJ Cup inaugural event, first regulation stop in South Korea. So this should be interesting. We'll see how this goes. But it's a decent field, a lot of players to choose from when we go over our picks and update the odds and such. And we've got Justin Thomas, of course, the FedEx Cup champ here, Player of the Year. We've got Rookie of the Year, Xander Schauffele here. And there are also 17 Korean pros that will be here on their home soil. So what do we know, if anything? I mean, again, it's a new course, so in the schedule. So how old actually is this course? And what's the word, Jeff, about what we're going to be looking at starting tonight?
The course dates back to 2001, and it is the only course in South Korea that is ranked among the top 100 in the world as far as golf courses. So you're getting the best that you have in South Korea. It obviously is playing its first event on PGA Tour, has hosted the LPGA 4 times back in its early existence, and a couple of its winners were Se-Ri Pak and Grace Park. A couple of, one's in the Hall of Fame, and the other one probably would be in the Hall of Fame if her career hadn't been cut short by back injuries. So it's a quality golf course. It is actually on Jeju Island, which is south of the Korean mainland. It's a volcanic island, and the course is going to play at about 3,500 feet sea level. So I think that you're going to get a lot of long drives and such just from playing at that level. The course, kind of a standard course, plays shy of 7,200 yards. It's a par 72. It will end on a par 5, so there's a chance that you could have some last hole dramatics, kind of like what Tyrrell Hatton did over in Italy last week. The course is also going to be very wet. If you watch the weather very much, obviously we've had our share of hurricanes here, but it was an active typhoon season in Asia, and so everything is very wet over in that part of the world, and you can probably fire darts a little bit better than you would normally expect. Now, I looked at the weather forecast. Wind is kind of the primary defense of this course, and the wind will be blowing all week, about 20 miles an hour. So wind players probably have a little bit of an advantage, but this is a course that nobody has seen at all, unless maybe there has been, an Asian tour event or something like that has played there, where one of the Korean players or Asian-based players, might have had the opportunity to play it once or twice.
And all right, Jeju Island in South Korea. We'll see if we get. And is this supposed to be the stop every year for this event?
It would not surprise me that if it is, and I'm sure they've signed a fairly long-term contract, 4 or 5 years.
Okay.
Korea wants to showcase its best, and like I say, this is the best course that South Korea has to offer, and from the photos that I've seen, we're going to see some pretty good visuals from this golf course.
And are all the top regular PGA Tour South Koreans here?
I think pretty much so. This is a home game for them, and I don't think anybody really wants to miss the first opportunity to play in this. And so Siwoo Kim, the Players Championship title holder, is there. KJ Choi, 8-time winner on the PGA Tour. Sung Kang, who finished third last week. You're going to see Sang-moon Bae making his third start of his revived career after the military obligations. As you said, there's 17 in the field. I'm not sure if that's a maximum number, but it ought to be pretty close for those that are eligible.
All right, let's go ahead and get right to it as we make our picks, go over the latest odds, and break down these players for the CJ Cup. The favorite, no surprise, is Justin Thomas at 8-1. And then you have Paul Casey at 11-1, Jason Day at 12-1, and Xander Schauffele at 18-1. So those are your top players. And Justin Thomas, actually, Jeff, if you like Justin Thomas this week, it's probably not a bad week to take him, considering the odds at 8-1. He doesn't have any of the other top guns in this event along with him, the ones that we saw that ended 2017. That even includes Hideki Matsuyama. So I think those are pretty generous odds for Justin Thomas. Whether you want to take him or not, that's up to you, of course. But you've got the first pick.
Yeah, the thing that I wonder about with Justin Thomas is he had such a great 2017, and he admitted at the Tour Championship he's gassed. And then he went and played the President's Cup, took 1 week off, and then went to defend a title in Malaysia, and just kind of never got out of the gate really solid. Had a nice finish, was able to top 20. Still, that was his worst finish, I think, since early August or something like that. So
surprising he's playing this week, then, isn't it?
Well, yes and no, because we've got this 3-week swing. You knew that he was going to try for the three-peat in Malaysia, and he's going to play the HSBC, the World Golf Championships event, next week in China. So do you take the week off? Do you fly back? Is flying back worth anything?
No.
Or do you just kind of stay out and play? And
how about he relaxes?
Stay out and play. Huh.
Maybe he can go fishing.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. Just don't go skiing or anything crazy like that.
Well, yeah, but anyway.
Or play basketball.
he's going to take a fairly good break after China.
Okay.
You'll see a lot of guys do that, but I'm not sure that Thomas has got fresh batteries. So
And maybe that's why he's 8-1.
And maybe that's why he's 8-1. I think some of these guys that came straight back off a good run. I think Paul Casey might be in the same boat. As much as I like Paul Casey, I think the 77 might have been a little bit of an indicator, but even though he finished very well. So I'm actually going to kind of go away from all four names that you mentioned. I'm going to go to the fifth name on the list, who is coming off a break, who has played well overseas before, and as I mentioned, the wind's going to blow, and he's one of the best wind players out there. So I'm actually going to make my top pick Mark Leishman at 20-1.
All right, yeah, you've certainly gravitated towards Leishman a lot in 2017. He came through for you with. Now, did you hit him just with the one win or the two wins?
I didn't hit the second win much as but I got him at Bay Hill. So.
And look, he's playing well, as you said. He ended the season with that third place finish before the win at the BMW for his second win of the year. So new season. We'll see what kind of let's see how he gets, what kind of a start he can get off to, because we know that we've talked a lot about Mark Leishman as this type of player. That this 2 wins should just be the beginning of his career, and that's what he has to do now. He has to follow that up, and we'll see if he can do it. Okay. I will then go ahead with the second pick and take another guy that's fresh and a player that is definitely, you got to believe, looking to get off to a really good start after not having the best of seasons. He's got 7 straight top 30s, including 3 top 10s, 4th at the BMW, and that's Jason Day at 12-1. So I'm going to go ahead with Day. And that leaves Joel with Thomas, Casey, his boy Schauffele, and then also you've got his other boy, Tony Finau, and then Patrick Reed. Those are the other players below 30-1. So a lot of good players still to choose from, Joel.
Well, the 2 guys I really liked going in were Mark Leishman and Jason Day. So that kind of throws me off a little bit. But after that, I think I'm not really comfortable taking him, but I'm going to do it anyway. Paul Casey. I mean, he can play in the wind. He seems to be able to play in any conditions. And we are talking about a course that no one has seen before. He's someone who seems to doesn't have like a huge weakness in his game anywhere. It's going to be, it's another second shot course. I think 11-1 odds are pretty good for him considering the field that he has.
Yeah, and you wonder about his psyche, as you said. Where is it? And maybe that's maybe he psychologically did kind of, hey, you know what? I'm just gonna kind of chill out here in the first round, and then maybe chilled out too much with the 77. Got like in a horse race when you're gonna let everybody else get ahead of you, and then you're gonna come back and you're gonna change your strategy from setting the pace in a race to being a closer, and he just it took too long to get it going. So we'll see, because if he can carry the momentum in over the last 3 rounds into this event, then maybe this is an opportunity for him to break through, because he's going to do it sooner or later, Jeff.
You think so?
Yeah, and as soon as he gets some rest, I'll be back on his bandwagon.
All right, so you're for a second pick, Jeff. After taking Leishman, you still have Thomas, Schauffele, Finau, Reed, and the rest.
Yeah, and this is kind of a tournament, and maybe it's because of the rest factor and the fact that nobody has seen this course, that at least I'm gravitating toward guys that are not they're going to give you better odds. The way things often turn out with this is you just never know. So roll your dice a little differently. I kind of like the way Tony Finau has done his schedule. He took a week off or had the week off post the playoffs, and then got a runner-up finish at Silverado, but did not play last week in Malaysia, was able to take that extra week of rest. Those that played Malaysia were subject to some very high heat and humidity, really, really got drained last week. And now they're going to a completely different climate where they're going to be nearly a mile high, and the wind's going to blow, and the temperature is supposed to be in the 60s all week. So there's going to be a little bit of temperature whiplash for those that are coming over from Malaysia, too. So I kind of like the way Finau has got his schedule set up. He was runner-up at Silverado, and that followed a pair of seventh-place finishes in the final two playoff events. And we all have talked about he's going to win one of these before too long, too.
Okay, so Finau definitely one of the again, as you said, a good bargain pick at 22-1 based on how well he's been playing, with a couple of sevens, and then the runner-up at Safeway has a little bit of time off here. He's got the power game, and again, a player that I know Joel has picked quite a bit lately. So maybe this is finally a good spot for Finau to get in there and get another win. All right. I will then go with, tell you what, I'll take a player that also has had a little bit of time off again. He ended the season with 4 top 20s in his last 5, including the runner-up at the PGA, and that's Patrick Reed at 25-1. So I'll go with Reed at 25-1. I was thinking about your boy Schauffele. And you know, I still wonder whether or not he's a good pick or not, Joel, because you just wonder. I mean, how long can he keep it up? Can he go 1-3-1? That would be pretty impressive.
Well, you read my mind again. I had Reed zeroed in on that one there. I think with the time he's taken off and he's really seems to come around, he's got to be motivated to get this season off to a good start after a little bit of a disappointment last year. But I'll take the gamble. I'll take Schauffele. He's still hot. I like him on courses like this just because his irons game has been so incredible. We have very heavily protected greens here, and I think he's someone that can give himself a lot of birdie opportunities. I'd prefer if he had. Well, no, he's still pretty well rested. He did play last week, but he had a few weeks off before then. I think his confidence is still riding high, and 18-1. I think it's a good gamble.
Yeah, I mean, we don't know if in 6 months from now, what we're talking about, Xander Schauffele is one of the best players in the world. I mean, nobody knows.
Yeah.
I mean, we didn't know he'd be playing this good at this point. So, and if
we didn't know who he was at this point.
Yeah, and if he does wind up being in that position, then we'll look back and go, man, that 18-1 back there in the CJ Cup was a bargain. So, all right, Jeff. Thomas is still on the board at 8-1. Everybody else has been taken, and now we start up with the 30-1 shots. You got Pat Perez won last week. You got Adam Scott, who would definitely like to get off to a good start this season. No top 5s yet in the calendar year 2017 for Adam Scott. Daniel Berger's playing here at 30-1. Keegan Bradley, fresh off his first runner-up since 2014 at Bay Hill, is 35-1. Even though that was his first top 10 since Quicken Loans in July. And then Cameron Smith is also at 35-1, coming off a 5th place finish last week. And then there are 4 players at 40-1. You got Lahiri, Cabrera Bello, Woodland, Henley, and South Korean Kang. Before we get into the long shots.
Well, I'm going to reach back into the the Australian bucket again, but not for the guy that everybody recognizes. But I really liked what Cameron Smith did in Malaysia last week. Kuala Lumpur does seem to fit his style. He's actually had 2 top 5s there. What I was really impressed with is how low he went at TPC Kuala Lumpur, bookending his week with 64s. And he's got the experience of having played some Asian Tour events before, pointing toward the PGA Tour. He's a young guy who probably will adapt to the travel a little bit better, and this seems to be a good time of year for him. So I'm putting Cameron Smith as my 3rd pick.
Yeah, Smith was definitely on my list as well. We talked a little bit about him last week, and that fifth place finish is third top 12 in his last five. So looking for his first pro win at 35-1. Cameron.
No, remember that he was co-winner, or however you want to phrase it, at the New Orleans event.
Yeah.
So he does have a PGA Tour win to his name.
Yeah. Okay. That's like one of those. Yeah, that would be like I'm trying to think how you can compare that. That's a team win. That's his first win, but that's a team win because it really. I mean, well, how is the situation again? How did they what did they count and what didn't they count with that win last year?
Both members of that team are counted for PGA Tour wins, and they get the full 2-year exemption on tour. And as far as FedEx Cup points, what they did was they added up what first and second would be, and split the difference. And so in this case, both Cameron and his partner, whose name escapes me right now, took home 400 FedEx Cup points.
Yeah, you might be able, maybe for your long shot pick, you could take Blixt.
Is he in the field?
Yeah, he is, right? He's in the field, isn't he?
Okay.
Yeah. All right. Let's see. I will then go with, I'll tell you what, I'm going to take a 55-1 shot who's got 9 straight top 45s. And that includes a 7th place finish last week. He hasn't been in the top 100 at the end of the year since 2011. Right now he's 85th, and that's Lucas Glover. So Glover will be my third choice at 55-1. All right. Joel, you've got Casey and Schauffele.
Yes. And normally I don't go into the long shots this early, but there's someone there I really like, and I don't want to risk him not getting around to me in the next spot here. It seems like you two really done your homework this week. But I'm going to take someone here. He had a really good stretch in the middle of last season where he had 4 top 10s in 6 events. Got injured and really kind of lost it towards the end of the year. But last week he really put together, and that was Danny Lee at 66-1. He led the field in birdies last week in Malaysia. He and even his one bad round, he was a 73 in the first round. That was in spite of 2 double bogeys and a triple bogey. He's really he was dead last in the field in pars, obviously. So he seems to be feeling it again. And also, I mean, I don't know if this is actually going to matter, but he is Korean. I know he's from New Zealand, but originally he's born in Korea. His heritage is Korean. He could be pretty motivated to take a tournament like this, the first one actually in Korea.
Okay. Yeah, he's been dealing with the shoulder and back injuries this year, so maybe he's healthy again after that 7th place finish. So a player that we really felt a couple years ago was on the verge of being somebody to definitely look out for. And then I guess you can throw in the injuries as a big reason why. I mean, things haven't really taken off for him. He got up to as high as 47th in 2015 after winning the Greenbrier that year. So we'll see if he could stay healthy, and if he can, then maybe he can have a good season. All right. Let's see. Oh, by the way, Jeff, I think we were insulted. I think that was an insult by Joel. Do you think that was an insult?
I meant that as a compliment.
Yeah, I know what you meant.
Yeah, I was going to say.
I know he meant it as a compliment, but I think it was an insult, Jeff.
You're just looking for motivation.
Aren't we all?
No.
All right, go ahead, Jeff. Long shot time, 50-1 or more. And we've got players right now at the 50-1 cut line like Peters, Schwartzel, Schneider-Jans, Revy, Grace, and the always fun to say, On and Na, and then the others. So who do you like as a long shot? Any of those 50-1 shots, or are you going to go deeper?
No, I think I'm going to stay close to that level. Well, maybe not all the way to 50-1, but I'm looking at this. I was looking at Danny Lee. There are a couple others I'm looking at, but I'm trying to come up with somebody who is kind of has experience in digesting a course quickly, a little bit of a world traveler, and I don't see as much as I thought I would see. Actually, I was going to go with Lucas Glover, but you pipped me on that one. So, I'm going to go just a little bit deeper into that, and we know that Ian Poulter travels well, and he's coming off really a great bounce back season. He's also got a game that plays pretty well in the wind, and so I'll put those factors together and make him my long shot pick.
Okay. What did you like about Glover?
The fact that he is also coming off a great a breakthrough season, got off to a good start last week. One of the best ball strikers on tour. Putting is what was kind of the reason behind his downfall, and also another very good win player.
All right. I'm going to stick with a theme that I've had so far in this show with my picks, and that is the fact that all of my picks have been on nice little runs, and also not only have they been on nice little runs, but they haven't won in a while. So I'll stick with that, and I'll go with Chez Reavie. Chez Reavie at 50-1. 8 top 25s in his last 12, a couple top 10s, one top 5, 17th last week. So I'll take Reavie at 50-1 as my official long shot. Joel, who's your long shot?
Well, I was looking at Poulter there. He's just been so good around. He's his length shouldn't be a big issue at a course like this. But I'm gonna go a bit deeper. There's someone further down who I absolutely love their odds. I think he's due to get back on track. I think this is a good course for him. That's Brian Harman at 100-1. He had 7 top 10s last year. He was 5th in putting. He's one of the best around the greens. He doesn't need to find more fairways, but I don't think on a course like this he's going to spend too much time in the rough. He does have experience playing on some windy courses. I think good to get a veteran in something like this. And then at 100, I love those odds at 100-1 for him. I think he's close again.
Okay, there you go. Brian Harman is your official long shot. Jeff, you have Leishman, Finau, and Smith as your top 3 picks. If any of them fail to tee it up here in a few hours, who is going to be your alternate?
Kind of torn between 3 players. I'm going to go with the best putter of the trio, because that's usually the way you go with these things. And Rafa Cabrera-Bello was top 10 last week, and had a really good ball striking week to set up his good putting. We'll see if that carries over into this event over at Nine Bridges.
Okay. Yep. And I'll stick with that 40-1 category as well and go with the South Korean Kang, who finished 3rd last week at 40-1 as my top alternate. Okay, Joel, who's your top alternate? Casey Schauffele Lee, in case one of those does not tee it up tonight.
I still like Yanner Lahiri. I think at 40-1, he had one poor round in the middle that kind of prevented him from getting really into the mix last week. But he's someone that seems to do well on a different kinds of courses. He's a traveler. He looks pretty good. I'll go with him at 40-1.
Yeah, it was your second pick last week, and yep. So he's got the 9th at BMW and the 10th last week. So surroundings maybe a little bit more comfortable for him as your number 1 alternate at 40-1. So we have 3 40-1 shots as our alternates. Alternate long shot, Jeff, if something happens to Poulter at 66-1.
I think I'm going to go with another good ball striker at 66-1. I was trying to look for another Korean besides Kang that I had some faith in, and I just can't find anybody that tickles my fancy there. So not going Korean with any of my picks this week, but I think Kyle Stanley is a good ball striker who might be able to fit this kind of course. I just don't know how well he travels.
Okay. Stanley, 21st last week. So we'll see if he can follow up a much needed break back season. See if he can continue that in 2018. 66-1. My second long shot, I took, matter of fact, I've taken him a little bit lately, and he hasn't played poorly. So I'll go back to Ollie Schneiderjans at 50-1 as my second long shot. Joel, who's your alternate long shot?
Well, this guy's been a little boomer bust, but Thomas Peters at 51. Those are good odds for him. We know he can go low. He's moved around a lot. We saw in the Olympics that a new event, new course, he can really thrive in that kind of environment. So, yeah, he had a few good rounds, few bad rounds last week. At some point, he's going to put it together. I don't know if it'll be this week, but that'd be great if it was.
All right, and players we didn't touch. Again, I guess we're all going to wait and see about Adam Scott. Kind of tough for Perez to win back-to-back, but you never know. And then you have Berger playing here. Bradley, why did you not go with Bradley, Jeff? Was he under consideration after the runner-up last week?
Yes, he was. And when I was talking about choosing between three for the first alternate, he was one of those that was not chosen. He probably, I could have flipped a coin with him and Cabrera Bello, but Cabrera Bello is the better putter.
Okay. And let's see who else. I would probably, if let's see, some of the others that I was thinking about that we didn't take. I was looking at both Patrick Rogers and Nick Taylor at 100-1. Rogers starting to play a little bit better now. Again, he played well at the beginning of the season last season, so he seems to play better at this time of the year compared to in the middle of the meat of the schedule, and that obviously has to change if he's going to up his game. But I think he is worth it. Nick Taylor, 9th at Safeway, 13th last week, played well on Sunday with a 65. So both Rogers and Taylor at 100-1 were a couple of players I was thinking about. And what about you, Joel? Who else were you thinking about?
Well, Sung Kang at 40-1. He's a native of Jeju Island. It was T3 last week. So sometimes at home advantage, sometimes it can be advantage, and then you'll have other times like Tommy Fleetwood at the Open, where it's just a lot of pressure, and I end up just liking some others better. I also consider Grayson Murray again. He had an extremely disappointing first round, but once he got going, he was carding a lot of birdies. And Russell Henley, he was third at the Tour Championship. He's had a little bit of rest since then. He's strong tee to green. Hits a lot of greens.
All right, JB Holmes is here at 66-1. Graham Dillette's here at 66-1. So is Lovemark. Griot's at 80-1. Cauley didn't play well last week as my third pick, so I stayed away from him this week. You mentioned Kim Jeff, the TPC champ, is 80-1. And what about some of these other players? What do we? Another player that I was kind of thinking about was CT Pond, Jeff. He seems to be playing a little bit better. He's at 125-1.
Yeah, he got off to a couple of good starts early last season, but then kind of fizzled out. Have not seen a whole lot of him lately, but this is a place where some of those younger players can jump up.
And what do we know about Young Han Song? 116th in the world, 6 straight top 20s. That includes 5 top 10s, 2 top 5s between the Asian and Japan tours. Young Han Song.
And playing fairly well in both, trying to maintain dual tour membership there, I suppose, and top 15 in earnings on both tours. And as you mentioned, has got 5 top 10s in the area. He is in on an Asian tour exemption, 26 years old, so still finding his game.
And Hadwin and Vegas and Howell are in the 100 to 125 range. I know you like to talk about Vegas, Joel, and Jeff. I know you've had a soft spot for Howell, but those guys are way back for a reason. KT Kim, by the way, has got 8 wins since 2015 on the Japanese tour, but he's yet to be able to impress so far when he's got to go up against the big boys, which he'll be doing this week. And anybody else? By the way, Blix is 250 to 1, Jeff, just so you know.
And really, since New Orleans
also
hasn't done a thing. So.
What was that, Jeff?
Since New Orleans hasn't done a thing.
Yeah. And by the way, Chris Stroud, it looks like he just had one of those couple of weeks because he hasn't been able to pick things up where he left off the week before and the week of the PGA Championship. He's down at 250 to 1. And then what were you saying about what we were mentioning? No and Bay, Joel, they're both 150 to 1.
Yeah, that's decent odds. I was looking for Koreans to pick this week, and the closest I came was Danny Lee, who's sort of Korean.
Okay.
Yeah, as a whole, it's just difficult. I mean, Bay is I think he'll be good again, but he's got a lot of rust to shake off from those 2 years off. I'm not comfortable taking him yet. I think he'll eventually be back there.
All right, Joel, what else is going on over at Pro Golf Weekly before we let you go?
Well, thanks, Greg. Please check out Pro Golf Weekly at progolfweekly.com, where we can get all the stats, video, compelling analysis, key highlights, and the best in social media for every pro tour worldwide, including the PGA and LPGA tours. I've kind of upped the content a little bit this week. We have we have our top 25 field rankings. The latest on Tiger's progress. That was something that excited a lot of people this week, and we got the latest on that. There's some fun videos. It's never too early for Ryder Cup, but the captains we're kind of having a little fun with it already. We've got some interesting video from the first some of those meetings there. But yeah, that's progolfweekly.com for the best in social media and a one-stop web portal for all pro golf tours worldwide. And please follow me at Joel J. Cook on Twitter. The latest updates, commentary, and much, much more. And we'll be here to do this again next week.
Yeah, WGC, big one. Joel, appreciate it. We'll talk to you next week.
Thank you.
All right, you got it. That's Joel Cook. And, next week, Jeff, the WGC HSBC, Hideki Matsuyama. That really kind of kick-started and was all a part of Hideki Matsuyama's amazing run to start the season. And he became a top player in the world after that start he had. Of course, he died down for a little while. Then he kind of came back up, but just couldn't get it done when he once again kept showing how good he could be in the majors, but he hasn't been able to close that deal yet. But we know how close he is. So I guess he's taking the week off. That's what I thought Justin Thomas would do. Would take the week off and then come back next week, and I guess that's what Matsuyama's doing.
Well, yeah, for Matsuyama, it's probably a shorter flight home. So maybe it makes more sense for him than it does for Justin Thomas. And Matsuyama really looked gassed in the playoffs, and maybe he needed the rest a little bit more, a little bit earlier than Justin Thomas. He just did not have any good finishes at all in the playoffs. His best finish was 23rd. That was in Boston, but everything else was outside the top 25, and even the 26th that he had was in a 30-man field at the Tour Championship. So he was really struggling. So you could tell that he was struggling at the President's Cup. He needed to get some time off. I think recharging his batteries helped in Malaysia last week, and now he can kind of set himself up for a decent run here. What he did last year was he won in China. He won a Japan Tour event, and then he won the Hero World Challenge in the Bahamas, Tiger's small field event, and used it as a springboard, to win in Phoenix, and that got him into the top 5 of the world rankings. But he really cooled off as spring turned into summer.
And by the way, next week they'll also have the Sanderson Farms Championship on U.S. soil in Mississippi. Cody Gribble, who's 200 to 1 this week. I guess we're expecting him to go back to Mississippi next week.
Yeah, because his world ranking is not where he can get into China. He did not finish in the top 30 of the FedEx Cup points, which would have gotten him into China. So without being able to qualify for China, he'll go defend his title in Mississippi. And he was a rookie last year. He was the first of, 6 rookie winners on the PGA Tour last year. And this is the type of event where all the big names, if they're going to play at all, are going to play in China, and you do see either a pattern of rookie winners in these type events, or guys who are coming back either from injury or from really off years. But it's a good springboard, particularly to see rookies. As you kind of get into regular golf season, you're trying to figure out who to pick in the lower rounds of fantasy. Sometimes events like Sanderson Farms and these last 4 events can help persuade you which way to go with some of your lower fantasy picks.
All right, Jeff. So you have your first look report at pgtour.com for. Now you're going to be doing both events on Friday?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a 2-event week, and so you get a double on the first look reports.
All right, that's at pgtour.com on Friday. And, of course, your Around the Tours reports at Prime Sports Network is out and available. Also, by the way, you can check out on the Around the Tours report some of the information that we did not talk about today, including what's going on with the Charles Schwab Cup playoffs. As Joel mentioned, the Tiger Woods update, the latest on the wildfires right after the Safeway Open ended, the LPGA Tour, a couple things there, including what went on last week and what's going on this week. So that'll wrap it up. Jeff, appreciate it as always. And looking forward to talking about a big field next week.
The last time that we'll get pretty much everybody in the top 50 together in 2017.
All right, looking forward to it. So I'm looking forward to both. Looking forward to previewing that event and taking a break. So just like everybody else is. So for Jeff Shane, for Joel Cook, I'm Greg DePalma. Thanks for tuning in here to Prime Sports Golf on the Prime Sports Radio Network. Don't forget to check out our on-demand shows within hours following every broadcast on PrimeSportsNetwork.com or our iTunes and YouTube pages on the Prime Sports Network. You can also follow us on Twitter at PrimeSN. We'll see you next Wednesday and every Wednesday at noon Eastern right here on the Prime Sports Radio Network. We will never see the truth around.